You have made it to the Psilocybin podcast with Tales from Eleusinia, a unique science-based psilocybin retreat based out of Mexico that not only focuses on brain health and well-being, but actually specializes in pain management. I am your host, Tanya, the medical director. Come along and join us as we break down the latest in psychedelic research, news, and the inner workings of this amazing experience. Chris, thank you so much for coming to the show. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're up to?
My name's Chris, and we're just on the last day of the retreat, and my wife and I actually came. I had some experiences with mushrooms before, and my first experience in particular, they were all recreational, mostly in nature, but there was such a profound impact in that first experience, just inadvertently, that I immediately knew that there was something powerful there, and immediately became very curious about exploring them and using that power in earnest to make purposeful changes in my life. That's probably 4 years ago now. So something I've been looking at over time. I kind of shared some of those experiences with my wife. She also became curious, and, she was always, say no to drugs. We're both dare kids, and she hadn't really ever tried anything. And as she started trying a couple other things with me, and, kind of a shocker to me when I kind of mentioned that I was interested in doing a retreat, she was also very interested. It was kind of a wonderful blessing. And so I started really researching in earnest and found this one, and that's what brought us here.
And you mentioned that you were looking for some purposeful changes in your life. And you also mentioned that you spent a lot of time researching to find this retreat. So what were those changes like that you were kind of hoping for or recognizing in your life that needed?
Life had become very single note, drag yourself out of bed, get yourself to work, do your work, get home, have a few drinks to wear off the day, smoke a joint to wear off the day, distract yourself with social media, Netflix, watch TV, go to bed too late, try to get to bed, got a little bit of an insomnia issue, try to get to bed, eventually pass out 9 times out of 10, and kind of start the next day all over. And that's not the life I want. I'm a business leader, and, I want to show up for my employees. There's so much more of me that I have to give, and that I know that I have inside. And the way I've been living has not allowed me to show up the way, not even that I should, I hate the word should, but the way that I want to, and the way that I know that I can. And same thing in my marriage, and same thing with my friends, and same thing with my family. I'm really good at going through the motions. I'm really good at being the right person to the right people in the right place. But I don't know how much of a show it really is, but to me, it feels like a show. It feels like I'm putting on this mask for this person and this mask for this person, and doing the right thing instead of just being me. And I know that the more of me that I bring to any situation, good things happen. I just look back at my life, and the best times of my life are times when I was truly showing up and being authentic and being vulnerable and being, all of those things that are difficult to be. Things are always better. And I know that I'm at a time in my life where that's calling me back. And so don't know, I didn't necessarily set expectations on the visit and on the retreat, but that was my hope, was that I would reconnect and come away with this with some new skills or new abilities or new outlook or mindset that allows me to show up more often.
I feel like life asks us to accommodate it when we're young, and we learn to really quickly that those masks are how we survive. They're, fundamental for us being successful. How can we shape ourselves like a chameleon into the next environment and be what we assume is expected of us? And then there comes a time in our life where we really crave, instead of us showing up as life wants it, we really crave life to show up for us. And there is this shift that has to take place. So what did that feel like for you?
I mean, I think exactly that, as I think back over my life, it's, I was taught at a very early age to perform. Firstborn was always a model child, model student, straight A's, advanced classes, and good in sports. That was my identity. And that, to me, that's what life was about, was performing whatever it is that you're doing, perform, be the, win it. And so whether that's being sensitive in a relationship, performing to that sensitivity in the relationship, not actually being sensitive. And over time, that just is, it doesn't feed you. It pulls from you. And I think that it just over time, and, and I've done the self-help book thing, and I've done some therapy coaching type things, and you have glimpses of this, oh, there is something deeper, there is something more. And I think that's what attracted me to psychedelics was, that's a whole lot of work, and it requires a lot of motivation and discipline. You get down on yourself and you read a really good book, and it kind of inspires you, and it kind of charges you up a little bit. And then you just kind of wear back down. And that first experience with psychedelics has stuck with me even to this day. And it's like, there's something here that supercharges all of that stuff and really connects you to something deep. And I think my experience here, I haven't been away from here yet to see if it does wear off, but it's hard for me to believe that it will, because so many of the things that I've experienced over the last few days have been so deep and profound, and I just feel reconnected. I see myself in a very different light, and there's a substantive difference to just the way I look at the day and the way I look at the things that I'm going back to. I'm going to be in the office tomorrow, which is kind of scary in and of itself. After all of this, I feel like this experience has closed very well, and I'm not leaving here like wishing I could stay. Like, I feel like this is great, but walking to the office tomorrow is, on one hand, a little terrifying, but on the other hand, like, I'm really looking forward to seeing people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really looking forward to being out of my office and spending time with my employees and my managers, and seeing how they're doing, which is something that was an effort for me before, and something that, unless kind of I was doing nothing else, I could really distract myself and not really talk to very many folks, and, except for XYZ, you need to do this, you need to do that type of conversation. And so, while it's a little bit terrifying to step back into kind of my old life, it's a little bit exciting to see what that can hold.
And would you mind going back and giving us like a compare and contrast of how you felt when you just arrived, and then how it felt in your experience?
I was looking forward to this trip so much, and, kind of done all the research, read Pollan's book and tons of articles online and Netflix things. So I was pumped. But we got here, and I'm surrounded by a lot of people I don't know. I felt very comfortable with the staff. I talked to Jessica quite a few times. I listened to a couple of your podcasts. I saw a couple of the Instagram videos that you did and that Andrew did. So I felt some familiarity there. I had talked to Jay through text messaging, so I was comfortable there. But I kind of looked around and I didn't know any of these people. And I didn't realize it at the time, but all of a sudden, the night before our first session, I was just crippled with anxiety, just pit of my stomach, just unease, didn't feel right, didn't sleep well that night, kind of that verge of dreamland and awake land, and was throughout the night was just kind of self-calming myself. I kind of wake up and just breathe a little bit, and woke up the next morning and still felt the same way, pit of my stomach. When I get anxious, I get nauseous. And so now I'm worried that, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be sick the whole time. And took the Zofran and still didn't feel great. Sat down, we did our breathing and all that. And I remember eating the honey going, all right, here we go. Just this anxiety. And, that mindset, I really played a large part in my first experience, in so much as I'll call it challenging. It was a bit of a battle between allowing the trip to unfold and saying yes to wherever it took me, and this intense need to hold on. And through the trip, I think while it was challenging, it wasn't scary, it wasn't bad, but it was a battle. And I really likened it to the day in, day out efforts that my mind goes through to put on the right face and to put on the mask and to keep everything together and to always keep a tally of my shortcomings and my failures and my this and my that, so that I can be sure not to show those things to others. And it's that voice during the trip, I started calling it that little man that worked so hard to try to keep everything together. And he tried to keep this trip together. He did not want the trip to happen because he was afraid that by letting go, all of these things are going to be seen by all of these strangers that I don't know, and it's going to hurt me. Through that process, I really gained a sense of love and appreciation and grace for that little man. Just looking at him working so hard and realizing that he doesn't need to, that all of that work is while yes, it may keep me from some pain, clearly doesn't keep me from all pain, but it's also keeping me from a lot of joy and experience and a lot of good things.
You had mentioned that it really literally felt like you were being stretched, like your identity and who you are physically was like being stretched to its ultimate capacity because you couldn't let go.
Yeah, I mean, the lasting image that I have was, I don't know if you've ever seen those super slow-mo videos of like a balloon popping. Like my last image is like the first or second frame where the balloon's just starting to pop and the air is like explosively escaping, but some of the rubber is all connected. And that's what that little man was doing. The experience, the mushrooms were the expanding air. And that little man was that rubber just holding on. And beyond all belief, he held on, right? He never let go. The balloon never fully popped, but it was just stretching and holding on so tight. Yeah, that was a lasting image. And as I got through that, and I kind of came to peace with, okay, that's what that is, right? When I was in it, I didn't understand why I couldn't let go. And once I finally understood and was able to recognize it, I came to peace with it and said, okay, well, I'm not going on the full trip today, but I now understand what was holding me back. And I understand what part of me that is, and I can see how that plays out in all the other areas of my life to then better understand and better have a conversation with that part of me in those other areas of my life, if that makes any sense.
You had perspective on looking back on yourself and kind of acknowledging and appreciating that little man for everything. And so you said that you found ease and grace.
Yeah, realizing that, he wasn't doing it to be an asshole. He wasn't doing it to hurt me. He was doing it to protect me. And
also others, right?
Right.
For everyone that you're holding it together for.
Exactly.
Because you kind of feel like you're the captain of this ship and also that you are the ship.
Yeah, very much so. Later on in the experience, I was kind of sitting and reflecting, and I had a knit cap that I've had since I was 17 when I started backpacking. And it's just something I throw in bags. It's just something that I just kind of, and I looked down at it, and the phrase came across my mind of, we've been through a lot, little buddy. And kind of the same thing of all that life I've led since 17 to now, that in my sober mind, I look back on, and typically all I see are the mistakes and the regrets and the missed opportunities and all of that. Truly looked at that person in that life with, again, grace and gratitude and understanding. I'm thankful for that kid that bought that cap, and I'm thankful for that person that lived that life, and I'm thankful for who I am now, and I'm thankful, and all of those are me, right? And those two things, understanding that little man and seeing that life as lived and being thankful for it, really, for the first time in my life, I never understood the phrase, you need to love yourself. Right? What does that mean? Yeah, I love myself. I'm great, but what does it mean to love yourself? And in that moment, I truly felt it. And it is the unquestioning forgiveness, acceptance. It's the love of a mother and the love of a father, where, yeah, I can be pissed at you, but I still love you. And no matter what you do, it's okay. We'll figure it out. And I'm just thankful you're here. I'm just thankful we're here. And I truly felt that for myself for the first time in my life, just loving myself. And even now it kind of feels silly to say, but it truly was a very deep, lasting understanding. And as we were closing, it was very, you know, because I talked to my wife about her experience, and, you know, she talked to her grandmother and she talked to her nephew and she saw this person and that person. And I know in the research I did, that's very common to see others, you know, either past or not past, or, you know, connect with other people in your life. And during our closing, I wasn't, you know, chastising myself or anything, but I noted that I didn't see a single person. It was me. That's interesting. And then click, well, you can't feel the love of others if you don't feel the love for yourself. And that bowled me over again, of just how much love in life have I missed out on because of my inability to love myself. And my wife tells me all the time, do you know how many people love you? Do you know how many people want to be with you and want to hang out with you and want to, and, you know, I always say, you know, in my mind, it's like, well, of course they do, because I'm this person around them. I'm the person that they like. And I make sure that I am. And I don't think that's necessarily true. You know, I think that's what I tell myself. And I do look around, and I have great friends, and I've got a wonderful family. I have an amazing wife, but I don't let myself feel that, because I don't feel that. That piece was sobering in terms of looking back and seeing what I've missed out on. But it is exhilarating. It brings me hope for what's to come, that by being present and by showing up, I can start to have those experiences and I can start to feel those things, and that my life from this point on can and hopefully will be much fuller than this life that I'm even thankful for sitting here today, right? So if everything today is just a glimpse of what's to come, how exciting is that? You know, how amazing is that? In the sober light of day, it's not a total switch. You know, I'm not different. I'm not a different person, but I'm more me. And I have a closer connection to the real me for one of the first times in a long time. And I have a burning desire to really learn more about meditation, to learn more about connecting with myself on a regular basis and creating a practice around keeping that connection fresh. Because upon reflection, what I kind of came back to was that little man, he's worried about the past, he's worried about the future, and he's worried about what everybody else thinks. How do I help him to relax and to calm down? By just being present, by being here with you, by being here with me, by being just here, by just being. Those are skills that are foreign to me. I feel like I've gotten a jump start on them, and I feel, you know, Andrew is such an amazing teacher, and just his ability to, in such a short period of time, provide some tools that really, I think it's a jump start, and I'm so excited to start down that path and really connect with myself in a meaningful, daily, regular way, to deepen that connection with myself so that I can be comfortable just being me here in this moment, here with this person, just here. And I think that that's, you know, this is a jumping off point. This isn't the, I came and I was fixed and now I'm going back a different person. This is the beginning, and it's a jumping off point. And we've been given so many tools and so many resources to just continue and let that snowball build.
Your story is so relatable because so many of us do that. But the other side that I see is that, you know, that little man did that out of love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you ran the ship and drove the ship and turned everything off because I think you love so hard. So you speak about who you really are and who you were to hold it together for everyone. And I was wondering if you felt like insight, and if you could describe some of the ways that you can, the insight into who Chris is.
Chris is joyful. He is funny. He loves to laugh. He is intelligent and creative. And really enjoys bringing the simple term is problem solving, but bringing new life to things, creating. I absolutely love facing a challenge and bringing out the best in other people. I'm never the one to solve the problem. I'm never one to fix it. But Chris is really good at bringing out the best in others and bringing their expertise to bear and connecting two things that many other people may not see connected, right? And all I do is put those two things together, and then the magic happens.
So you're a big out of the box thinker and create a lot of inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
And you have, from what I see, from what I know, and from what I felt, it's just a ton of compassion and a ton of love. Like you're one of the biggest hearts here. So it was just a joy to really hear your story and to see that all, because I think that those of us who can relate, who hold it together, who try super hard, that try over the top, it's because, we love so much. And also that's how we understand that we'll fit in, and,
Mm-hmm.
there's a whole slew there.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. The business I own is a family business. It's a business I never thought I would be in. I had a whole nother career before I joined it. And a lot of that was, to keep that business together. And since I've been there, it's half of my job is peacekeeper and half of my job is navigating those family waters in addition to the business waters. And it's that balloon. It's just it all together, same thing with family. And it's just, the oldest child and what needs to be done, and let's just what needs to be done. And I'll figure, I know I've said this to myself. I've physically said the words myself, I'll figure myself out later. Right now, XYZ needs to be done. Otherwise, it's all going to fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that's a lie we tell ourselves too, that it's all going to fall apart, that it all does rely on us. But yeah, you put yourself last. And even those around you, my wife tells me all the time to take care of myself. And I'm like, you don't understand, you're a middle child. You've always been taken care of, and she hasn't, and not to say anything negative about her, but there's just that sense of, if you don't do it, nobody will.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do it. You have the ability to do it, and then there's that guilt and shame of, well, you have the ability. And if you don't, well, you're wasting your God-given talents, and you're wasting your blessings. And how dare you? And how dare you leave those around you stranded? And I think, I don't know that will go away. I do have a belief that you are given the blessings that you are given, and part of life is living up to that. But there's a difference between doing it out of responsibility and doing it out of because I have to, and doing it out of the heart. And, and making sure that your cup is filled so that you can bring all of those blessings to bear, as opposed to doing it out of an empty cup where you're just doing what needs to be done to get by and telling yourself and patting yourself on the back that you're using your blessings, right? That's not that. Putting yourself first allows you to show up, to be that person that, call it God, call it the world, call it the universe, has put you here to be. The only way you can do that is by filling yourself up first. And then you can be a 100% force in the world.
And it does sound so cliche, people say that all the time, but it's like there's this ability with psychedelics to shut off the default mode network. And so it's like that part of us that won't even allow us to fill up our cup can get turned off, and it suddenly happens, and it's spontaneous. And I was curious if there, as you came with your wife, and your wife is amazing, you guys are such an amazing couple, was there challenging things to being with her on this journey, or was it was there both and wonderful things?
The challenging part for me was going into it. I was very apprehensive of, because she had never done psychedelics, and I wasn't worried for her, but I was
holding it together for her.
I was together for her. Yeah. And I was a little bit worried about, because, on some other things, turns into a very social person. She's a very social person anyway. And it just amps that up. And I know that when I'm tripping, I go very internal. I know other people tend to as well. And so I'm concerned. I'm like, oh my gosh, is she going to be walking around and chatting with everybody and trying to chat with me? And then am I going to have to kind of modulate, my trip with trying not to shut down her trip and, holding it together and none of that.
It's so funny, the ideas we have and complexities about how to control our spouses that we don't even know that we're carrying around.
and the, that little man, he creates worries about things that have never even happened, and you're worrying about fiction, until it happened. Why even worry about it? But to answer your question, it has been nothing but wonderful. Even as we were coming down off our first trip, we had an opportunity to begin to share with each other. And throughout my trip, it was very intellectual and spiritual in some ways, but it wasn't emotional. And having her there and sharing it with her was able to release the emotions for me. And so that was a blessing. And it kind of brought everything full circle and really cemented a lot of those insights that I had gained. And I know for her, she absolutely had wonderful experiences. And, it's something that it's one of the first things we've shared together, just her and I, in a long time, that is special for us. And we're walking away from this with, it is a shared gift. It's not something that I did. It's not something that she did, something that we did together. And it's a shared gift going forward that we're going to have for the rest of our lives. If I had come alone, everybody, all the other guests have been amazing. And I could have shared my story and my experience with any one of them. But that sharing goes away. Mm-hmm. We all leave today and we all go our separate ways. And so I don't know that I'll ever share this experience with anybody back home, outside of somebody that I think is, that this type of experience might be good for. I might actually, but I'm a pretty private person and I'm not one to, especially in my position, there's a lot of judgment around these types of things and conversations I prefer not to have unless I feel like it's somebody that I can trust. And, if my wife weren't comfortable coming here, I probably would have shared some with her, but it would have been different, because she never would have had the experience. She never would have felt the, what mushrooms do. Mm-hmm. But having both of us go through it, that sharing is so much more intimate. And now it is a concrete piece of our life going forward, right? Her experience, I understand 100%. And my experience, she understands 100%. So it creates an our experience. Wow. That is now part of our relationship. Mm-hmm. And will continue to be so. Even if we were to never do mushrooms ever again, those experiences are now part of who we are as a couple, but we will, and we're talking about getting hammocks and putting them in our backyard and starting meditative practice and starting a mushroom routine. And, so it's opened up this whole new thing for us. And it's been absolutely wonderful.
One of the things that you articulated that I really love is that during your experience, you had the intellectual understanding about all those parts of you and almost like the physical understanding with your visualization and experience of the stretching man. But it wasn't until the emotional experience that really helped. Like, I think your words were cement the entirety of the experience. And I don't think people think of things that way. They think, okay, well, I'm going to go to therapy and I'm going to talk about emotions, but it's another thing entirely to have all the pieces of the puzzle, a really deep understanding, visualization, the intellectualization, mm-hmm. and then the emotional experience. I just think that's beautiful. And I appreciate you so much, being a private person, but what I see is that you're, diamond heart. And I'm so excited for you and your life going forward. And I hope that that, we're here.
We're signed up on the network. I'm super excited. Yeah, this is part of our life going forward. And you guys have been so amazing. Just the staff that Jessica has pulled together, each of you bring such a unique piece and fill the perfect spot around the circle, and I'm so thankful for all of you as a whole and each of you as individuals for what you have allowed for us to experience and what you have allowed for us. It's so different than everything else that I looked into. It's all set up for this to be the jumping off point and to continue to go from here. This isn't the pinnacle. This is the base of the mountain where so many others are advertised as the pinnacle. And you guys deliver on that in spades, and just with creating the space and allowing us the room to have the experience, but then also all of the resources and all of the tools and all of the skills to continue it going forward. It's been absolutely wonderful.
Is there a message that you have for, anybody out there listening that possibly may be a lot like you?
It's the little man will tell you that it's hokey and that it's not that important and that you don't really need that. You can do it on your own. If you really think that you need this, you can do it on your own. You can figure this out and take the leap of faith. Just one night, because we had been talking about it, and I looked at Audrey and I had come across this one and this retreat and really felt like it was the one. I looked at Audrey and said, "Are you sure you want to do a mushroom retreat?" She goes, "Yeah, I'm tired of being anxious. Do it." And just literally in a little 5 minute, it was click, click, click. And and it just like took that leap of faith. And so for anybody out there that's that type A, overthinking, over analyzing, but deep down in your heart, that there is something more, that there is something deeper, and that you're called to this. Everything in your mind's gonna tell you the opposite. Just take the leap. If nothing else, it's a really fun weekend. If nothing else, it's a great little escape. I mean, the place is beautiful. The food is amazing. You'll meet some really, really cool people and you'll have fun doing drugs. But, I think that for most people that are in my type of position, they'll walk away with it with a lot more than just a great weekend.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.